Hey everyone, it's Omar Pineda here, your go-to realtor for all things Austin real estate. Recently, I had the opportunity to attend an event put on by Green Scene Home Inspections, where I got to shadow Clayton Bailey, an expert inspector, and learn about the home construction phase inspection process. In this video, we'll be taking you behind the scenes of a foundation inspection with a special focus on a home built by Weekley Homes. As a real estate professional, I know how important it is to work with trusted builders who are committed to delivering high quality homes that stand the test of time. That's why I'm excited to share with you some valuable insights and information about the foundation inspection process and the importance of working with reputable builders like Weekley Homes. Join me as I explore the foundation inspection process and learn about the importance of working with reputable builders like Weekley Homes and home inspectors like Green Scene Home Inspections to ensure the safety and longevity of your new home. So if you're in the market for a new construction home in the Austin area or simply interested in learning more about the inspection process, stay tuned for some valuable information.
This is before they pour concrete. This is before, the big stuff goes down. So right now what these guys are doing, I'm pretty sure they didn't know that these guys were going to show up here today and start this. The reason post-tension cable is just the dominant way to pour a slab. So you can see they're kind of all flimsy and going everywhere. It's like, well, what is that going to do? That's not going to hold any weight. How is that going to help keep something from moving, right? Well, once they pour that and encapsulate it in concrete, then it becomes hardened, and then you can hold that cable can hold a whole lot more pressure than just the rebar that's there. So the shear strength of that cable is a lot stronger, okay? Thousands and thousands of pounds. There's gonna be live ends and dead ends. And so what that means is these metal things that they've got sticking up here, those are the dead ends, and they're attaching that back to the framework. And then they're going to carry it across to the other side. Somebody's about to pull out a drill, and they're going to pull those through the form board and pull those tight. Not really tight, but they're going to pull them somewhat tight, okay? So as they're doing that, what they're trying to do is make sure that it doesn't touch any plumbing pipes. You don't want to have that directly on a plumbing pipe. What happens is so they're going to put them down now, and then when they pour concrete, they're going to come along and they're going to say, I'm going to tighten the cables for the first time. So they have a machine that goes in and grabs the cable and pulls the tension out of that cable. And they're not pulling all of the strength on it, but they're going to pull some of that strength while that concrete's kind of holding it in place. Okay, so they're going to pull about 30 to 40% of the strength of that cable while it's still wet and while it's still kind of mellow, just so that they can make sure that it's there. Then in a couple weeks after the concrete is set, then they're going to come through and do one more pull to really get it going. So it kind of goes in thirds. And then that last pull is when they're really putting thousands of pounds of pressure on that cable. And that's what holds the concrete flat, straight, and strong. Make sense? So I had this question before, so I just want to debunk this myth. If you have a post-tension cable, can a foundation company repair the foundation by grabbing that cable and pulling it to pull the slab back straight? Is that a possibility? All right, you all get a cookie. Good job. No, you cannot just pull that cable and hope that the foundation goes back straight. That is a myth. You cannot do that, okay? It is vital, though, that cable not touch any plumbing pipes and that it's protected, because if that cable breaks, the thousands of pounds of pressure or tension that's on the cable snaps, and then that's where it can break plumbing, or that's where it could break something. So the blue sheathing that is around the cable has to be there to protect it so that it doesn't come in direct contact with the concrete, okay? So as they're putting these things in, you're gonna see that they have to, where the dead end is, there's so many feet that it's all there, but it looks kind of greasy. And there is an actual greasy substance on that cable so they can slide that cable so that it moves freely through that conduit kind of thing, right? So you can see what he's doing right here is he's actually putting down what's called the vapor barrier. So By today's building code, it has to be a 10 ml plastic vapor barrier. And so that way, if water from underground comes up, it doesn't come up through the slab, ruining your hardwood floors, right? Older houses, you may have seen that before, where they have a slab leak under the house, and they noticed it because all the hardwood floors started buckling, right? Well, the vapor barrier is supposed to be there to kind of protect that, to keep that from happening. So, well, I call these little things islands. So they're coming in and they're kind of trenching those. What's the first step in this lot? Like, what's the first thing that happens?
Leveling the ground?
Leveling the ground. Good guess. Anybody else? What's that?
The fill.
The fill. Close.
Making sure the space that you're going to fill in.
You're getting warmer. I like this. What's 12 to 18 feet under this street?
Pipes, water pipes.
Yeah, sewer pipes. So we've all seen like a ranch or a ranch land that the rancher sold the land to a developer, and then you see those giant green pipes that are just all stacked up, and you see a bunch of dirt work, heavy equipment, machinery that's in there, right? The first thing they're doing is they have to go to the city, get their zoning permits to say, how wide is my street going to be? Where's the street going to be, right? Because they have to have fire hydrants, they have to run in all their public utilities first. Well, those big green sewer pipes are under the streets, okay? So the old saying goes, shit goes downhill. So it has to go down towards the street. So the very first thing to be put in is the plumbing pipes, okay? So this is where the plumber and the framer, whoever's pouring the frame boards, those guys have to be perfectly succinct, because every plumbing vent stack that you see coming up represents a bathroom, a vent stack, a kitchen, a shower, or something that's there. So if one of those measurements is off and they don't have it in the right place, and they didn't place that pipe according to where the architect said, hey, the shower's going to be here, the toilet's going to be here, the sink's going to be here, then when they go to frame it, it's not going to match up, right? So that's where those two have to be perfectly succinct. So the plumbing at this moment is the most vulnerable component of the house. So that being said, when we come out and do a phase inspection, we want to make sure, see how they have black tape wrapped around everything that's going vertical, okay? So for those of you that are daring enough to go with me, when we walk these little islands, you're going to see the sewer pipes that kind of go from island to island. Those are supposed to be sleeved with one pipe size bigger. So the machine that makes these trenches, it looks like a giant chainsaw, and it comes through and it just tears through the dirt. Well, the sewer pipes are there. So you don't want to hit a sewer pipe that's not protected, because it's going to bust through the sewer line, right? And then when they go to pour concrete, the concrete's just going to fill up the sewer line, and the poop ain't going to go down the hill. It's just going to stay there, right? So we want to make sure, and David Weekley, I love working with them, because they really go above and beyond, and they spare no expense, and they always make sure they do it the right way. So you can see that they have everything capped, which is what it's supposed to be. Do you see the green tag that's there up top? Okay. How many of you have had the unfortunate moment in a real estate transaction where you have to get the seller to sign that thing called a hydrostatic test form? It's a terrible form, and any logical seller reads it, they're like, I'm not signing this. Like, why would I sign this, right? So that test is happening, or happened right now, and there's a couple different myths about hydrostatic tests, okay? And I like to debunk those. First off, I've got, I also teach home inspectors for the state, and one of my fellow instructors, he sits on the Trek board. He's actually a master plumber, and I got another master plumber friend, and they came and they said, Clayton, can you guys stop saying the word hydrostatic and just call it a sewer leak test like the engineer does? Because the engineer, when we do foundation work, they want to see a sewer water test. So just call it a sewer water test. Stop using the word hydrostatic, because then there's this crazy form that everybody gets all upset about. How many of you think a hydrostatic test is under pressure? Yeah? It's okay.
I think so.
You think so? Okay. So they're not physically blowing pressure into that pipe. What they're doing is, this is a true hydrostatic test that's happening right now, okay? On a regular house that's built, it's a different type of test, okay? So the one pipe that's the tallest in the middle of the place, what they're gonna do is they're gonna put these test balls down here. I'm gonna go crawl down here. And you see how they have this in the line, the main sewer line right here? So the inspectors come through and they hook this up to a bicycle pump. This keeps any of the poop from going to the street, right? So then they're gonna come back and they're gonna go to that center pipe and they're gonna start to fill it up with water. So they fill it all the way up to the top of that pipe and they're gonna let it sit. They're gonna let it sit for 24, 48 hours, and then that city inspector is gonna come back and he's gonna say, did the level of that water stay at that height, right? Or did it end up going down? Because if it went down, there's a leak somewhere in there, red tag, you gotta go find your leak before you can pour concrete, okay? So I would say a lot of people say that, you know, should we have an inspection if the city's been here and they've done things? I will tell you the number one thing that cities are very good about is that they want to make sure that the concrete's not going to clog up their main street sewer line, because that's real expensive to overcome. So they're going to make sure they're going to do that test. It does happen often where we go to do the regular inspection. We go in, we turn on the shower, we flush the toilet, and then all of a sudden the shower just doesn't drain at all. You're like, what happened? What's going on? Well, the tile guy didn't tape the drain and he let extra grout or mortar go down the drain, and then it dried in the P-trap, and now it's stuck. Like, it's not going to get through there. So it wasn't anything that happened during this process. It happened after the fact. Okay. So I'm going to try to walk back this way. So essentially, we walk the property around the outside. Right, Rashida, this is you could almost teach this class. This is her third time to take it.
Coming back.
She's coming back every time. So we're gonna walk around the outside, and we're gonna look for grading and drainage, because we've got to have six inches of drop within 10 feet to make sure water runs away from the property. Right? Yes, ma'am. Let's say the foundation is also broken. Well, then it is possible for water to come up through the floor. Right? But that definitely means it's failed and it had a problem, so we found it.
It doesn't cause the break.
It does not cause the break,
Okay,
right?
I think
There's a big misconception about this. The other spot that plumbers could tell you is that if you have a pier and beam house that's cast iron, right, you're gonna have like these little tiny blisters on the outside of the pipe, kind of like a scab. When you get cut, your scab's trying to keep it from bleeding, right? Well, if you come in and you fill up the system, it might pop off that scab, and then it's going to go little leak, and it's just going to go into the crawl space. But there is a possibility of that, so we have to talk about it. But it's there. It's not putting it, like, they're not blowing air pressure or water pressure in this line. They're just, so the word hydrostatic in Greek, hydro, water, staticos, to stand. So they're just filling the water. Now in a regular real estate transaction where the house is built, let's say you have like a 70s house that's a slab, right? There's usually not clean outs like there would be here. So then the plumber's gonna say, well, I can't do this test, but I could if I remove a toilet, okay? Because then they're gonna perform similar type of test, but they have to remove a toilet. So if I'm removing someone's throne, I'm gonna ask their permission. Like, is it okay that we do this test, right? So then that's where you kind of have to say, all right, I want to make sure that we're doing this the right way. But even then, the hydrostatic test that you guys probably know, that plumber's coming out, he'll fill this line up, he'll do the test ball, and he puts a little pencil mark right here where that water level come up on the outside clean out. And if that water level stays at that pencil mark, you're good. But if it goes below that pencil mark, there's a leak, okay? How many of you think that a camera can find a leak?
Maybe if it's
The camera's not going to find a leak. It can tell you what the interior of the pipe is. It can tell you that maybe there's a break, but usually they're going to say that there's an anomaly or there could be something here, but they're not going to say, without a doubt, it's a leak, right? You have to do a physical science test, which is what they're doing here, to fill it up with water to see where the leak's at. What I want y'all to get used to doing is the isolation test. If you're up against it and you have the seller that doesn't want to sign that thing about a hydrostatic test, then we just got to cut straight to the chase and go do an isolation test, okay? And that's where the plumber's going to come in, put something down the line that kind of throws off electromagnetic frequencies,
Yeah, that's what it
and then they have a little metal detector thing, and they go through and they listen through the concrete to hear the breaks in the line, and they're going to draw a map of the slab and put little X's everywhere where there's a break, right? Then you got to decide, okay, am I punching through this, or am I going to tunnel underneath, right? Does anybody know how much it is to tunnel these days? It's about $500 to $600 a foot for somebody to dig down and over. So it's a lot. The average 2,000 square foot house has about 100 feet of sewer line. So that's why this is the most expensive problem in real estate. I like to talk about it because I've seen a lot of agents get burned, and we try to help you by informing you, and knowledge is power, but it's terrible when they buy the house, they don't do the test, they move in, springtime comes around, the tree roots reach out, clog it up, you call Roto-Rooter, they say, you got a problem, and this is going to be expensive, right? So get ahead of that and do those plumbing tests, isolation tests.
So would that test show if there's a problem from your sewer pipe to the street?
So they can, if there's a city clean out here, they can put the test ball down there at the city clean out and see what it is in between. Because he's right, in older houses or older neighborhoods, it's usually the giant tree that's in the front yard that has now displaced that pipe. And back then, if it's a really old house, they were probably clay. I know we also have Orangeburg on the east side of 35 in Austin, so it's just another one of those that's expensive to deal with, right? So we're gonna go ahead and kind of walk this way. I'm gonna walk my way out of this hole. If you don't feel comfortable walking, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I thought about it. I know I had one. I had one. Where is it? No, I'm not.
Here down the middle, you're gonna have a lot of drainage going out, and that's okay. It's designed to be that way, right? We wanna make sure as we're coming around, we're looking at our floorboards going this way. As we come around this side, we're looking at floorboards going this way. Are they tilting? Are they out of square? Are they kind of funky? Are they leaning a certain direction? Or is it doing something weird? As we continue to walk here, I'm looking for blowouts. There's a small little blowout right there. That's what I'm talking about. Where you can see down under the form board. That means when they pour concrete, concrete's gonna blow out of that hole, right? And we don't want that to happen. So we're gonna keep moving on, singing our song. So here's another spot where some fill dirt, if you guys can see some fill dirt there. Tell me that concrete doesn't just ooze out. Yeah, we want to not put more boards in it. Our live ends, right? How many of you have seen on a home inspection report where they say post-tension cables exposed? Have you seen that comment in an inspection report before? So that is this cable right here. When we get around to this other side, you're going to see there's two anchor points. There's two nails that hold that in place and cable in place. So just be aware of that.
What about this one with the blues not around it? Is that considered an actual defect when you're looking at the inspection?
Yep. So like right here, post-tension cable, like there's just that little half-inch of it that's not wrapped.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I prefer it when they take these and they slice it. I'm gonna get all greasy down. But they add this piece over that cable versus the tape. That's the better way to do it, is to add that plastic over that edge versus just taping it up. Because then it's gonna slide. Or the tape is just, it's gonna pull the tape, right? So just, I prefer to see that sleeve over that cable. Good question.
Once the concrete goes in, how do they go back and grab those cables? Like
There's a machine that reaches in and grabs the cable with the pneumatic tool, and then it's a hydraulic type of machine, and it just, you hit a button and it pulls.
so there's a hole still there?
Yeah, so there'll be a hole about, I'll show you right here.
I guess I'd never look at my house. I gotta look at
It's real small, but
I need to look at my house.
yeah, you'll see them. And that's the thing, you go home, you like,
I'm trying to see if they have an extra one later on. You see at the end of that anchor right there, where there's a hole that's about 2 inches or so. So that's the spot where you're gonna have like a cavity or a hole that's there. So that is what, when we write a post-tension cable exposed, it's because when they pulled the form boards off, they're gonna have that little hole there, and they gotta go back and put like a temporary patch or a permanent patch in that hole, kind of like filling a cavity in your tube. That's what we mean when we write up post-tension cables exposed. Not that it's just nails sticking out. You can use a chair against a plumbing line or a sewer line that goes through there to make sure that it's not just resting on that cable, especially if the cable goes under the sewer line and you don't want to pull it and it's just going to pull right into that sewer line, right? Make sense?
So the actual foundation over the plastic is really only 6 inches? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So 4 to 6 inches, hopefully it's 6 inches. 4 to 6 inches is usually what it is, but the trenches are supposed to be at least 22 inches deep. Well, in Austin, our stonework, man, it's really hard to get that 20 inches. So sometimes the engineer will say, look, you're sitting on bedrock. It ain't going anywhere. It's not doing anything. They're going to say you can get away with the 12 inch. Per international code, we're still going to write it up. But if the engineer says it's okay because you're sitting on bedrock, I tend to agree with them. But the code says I have to call it out regardless because that doesn't have that minimum 20 inches.
So
right?
the concrete strength is holding the house up coming from.
Coming from the cables. Coming from the cables. The cables are the main thing that's holding the tension that's there. Sometimes you'll see shear bar. So they'll have rebar that goes at a 45-degree angle. Usually it's by the front door, but that is to keep, because if you've got one corner that's cantilevering out, that corner, you want it to be strong. So they're going to do reinforcement rebar right there in that intersection to keep it nice and strong so that it doesn't settle or that it doesn't break off. The integrity of the house, but it is a crack in the foundation, and if we didn't say something about it, our buyer is going to say, there's a crack in the slab and you didn't say anything about it. You're a terrible inspector. It's like, I know what it is. It's not that big of a deal, but I do want to address that with you and tell you what it is. And so when we see it, it's no big deal. How many of you have ever gotten termites before? Or have had a client that's had termites? Or had swarmers? Has anybody had swarmers, the little flying ones that come out? Okay. So I had an agent call me one time. She's like, I don't know what's going on. My bathroom's in the middle of the house, and I got these little flying. It's like the plague is taking over my house. Like, what's going on? I'm like, you got swarmers. So what that means is those termites have been there for 4 to 6 years, and they're trying to go and recolonize to another area, right? But old school builders would put cardboard boxes around this so that the concrete didn't get in that area. Well, cardboard in the dirt is not a good idea around plumbing because you're just giving the termites a little buffet. You're just giving them something to eat. So that's when builders said, you know what? We should use plastic. So that's something that we're looking for, is to make sure that it's plastic.
Where did that go? Just right there?
Under the shower?
So that's under the shower.
So the
Yeah, so there's probably another shower over there on that other side. I haven't seen the plans. I'm just guessing that that's probably what it is.
So why do they have two over there? Is it a shower and a tub? Or
Could be a shower and a tub, or could
What year
be
did that change?
some sort of other
To the
area.
plastic.
Again, without seeing the plans, it's hard to say. I don't want the concrete to be in contact with the plumbing because they have to build a P-trap in that shower.
So you would call it a burner?
So like a catchbox, like it's going to catch the concrete from going into the. Yes, because you figure your P-trap is about that big, right? So that's how they're going to be able to, once it's all poured, they're going to come back in, dig out some of that dirt, put in their P-trap in that spot, and then boom, then they can do their shower, right? And usually your big lines are toilets. Again, without seeing the floor plan, it's hard to say. I'm guessing maybe kitchen is over here on this side, because I only see the one vent stack over there. So you probably have main bedroom here, or main bedrooms back there, and then another little patio. Let's keep going. We're gonna step over here to this side. I'll kind of wait for everybody to gather up. So we're just gonna kind of step from island to island. Remember, don't step on the edge. Kind of deliberately step over the edge, right?
It was my first time.
There's a nail.
Oh my gosh, you want to walk on it?
Are you gonna send us the video?
I will edit it and I can send it to you guys. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. So that
So the cities here, they're doing their pressure test. So they're doing a pressure test on this side. And since all these are capped, that one's open, that's the sewer test. So that's your sewer water test. And then if you look down through the trenches, they've got some of these covered up. You're trying to see your main line here.
yeah.
So they've wrapped it.
He says it all the time. He has to stop me sometimes.
So they've wrapped that, but they haven't sleeved that necessarily. And me being picky, I want to see one pipe size bigger over these pipes. So they did protect it from the concrete, but I would really, code says you're supposed to have one pipe size bigger over that pipe, so that way when that trencher comes through, it doesn't hurt the pipe. Okay, so that's just one of the little things that we would ding. When we get back to the house, I've got a photo presentation I'll show you where they busted one of the lines and they were about to pour concrete and we're like, no, like you're gonna fill up the sewer line. So it's important that that happens.
I was just asking a colleague, like, I wonder why you guys make the mounds of dirt instead of just pouring the concrete. And I'm assuming it's because so you guys can run the pipes through the.
Are you talking about these mounds of dirt?
Yes.
Okay. So what this is, I call it kind of the waffle effect. What, is a waffle or a pancake stronger?
Pancake. No, waffle. Yeah, waffle.
Yeah.
A waffle, because you've got intersections and you've got all those 90-degree intersections. That makes it a lot more rigid and a lot stronger. Where if I just poured concrete on the ground, it's like a pancake, and it's gonna like do this mover. Yeah. So the grid format really puts 90-degree angles on everything and strengthens the rigidity of the slab itself. Let's keep going because I don't want to hold these guys up. I'll get yelled at.
No, oh, it's not. I don't want to ask
There are no dumb questions.
Yeah. Doing the inspections, we walk from island to island, and we actually look around all the sides. I'm just kind of trying to take us through this quickly. I'm looking for debris. I'm looking for cave-ins. I'm trying to make sure the vapor barrier goes at least halfway down into the trenches. I'm looking at those sewer lines down the way, so I see there's another one down there. Right when I get over to that one. So typically I start on one little island and then go back here, and go back here, right? And that's how it ends. For our purposes, and I just want to get out of these guys' way, we're just going to do it once. What is this area?
The back of the house.
That's the back porch, back patio, right? David Weekley pours their slabs in their garages with the same strength as the foundation, where a lot of builders will skimp and they'll only do a little concrete, right? Versus, wow, this ain't gonna move. So this, I love David Weekley because they do it the right way, right? So going on our water, it's all the way up to the top. Okay. So when we get here, one of the things we're looking for, if it's like this, especially if there's a green tag, we like seeing green tag. Green tags are good.
That means it's good to go.
That means it's good to go. Oftentimes, I'll be real honest with you, most builders don't cap these dudes. I don't know why, but I don't say this politely. When we're looking down the trenches, like what do you see right there in the trench? What is it?
Plastic bottle.
A water bottle.
Yeah.
Or it could be a beer can. It's about the same size as one of these. Somebody that's not happy can very easily just drop that down the line and then clog it up. So we want to see them all capped so that nobody has any malice and tries to intentionally clog up the sewer lines. Okay?
Oh man, that
Did I say that pretty much accurately? Okay.
Well said.
or even like
Yeah, it's gonna clog it up. It's
Yeah,
gonna clog it up.
plans.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep walking on. So you can see down here where the other pump line. And they're doing little shear bars. That's an extra little step to have those little shear bars that go across here. A lot of builders won't do that. That just adds a little bit more rigidity to the slab itself. These little shear bars here. And then coming in the garage. My guess is front door is going to be around this front door area here. So they haven't quite finished the curtain.